This is Leafs Morning Take with Nick Alberga and Jay Rosehill.
Now we've got a fight started here right off the bat with Rosehill.
30 minutes of live, nonstop Leafs talk starts now.
What is good, everyone? Happy New Year. It's 2023. Nick Alberga and Jay Rosehill with you for another edition of Leafs Morning Take as we get set for a brand spanky new year, Rosie. What's happening, buddy?
What is up, man? I feel like we haven't done this in like a month, but yeah, not much going on. Just watching Connor Bedard last night. That's about it. And getting back in the swing of things in the new year. He's disgusting.
Dude, I have no words to describe that kid anymore. And I understand he's just 17. To be dominating at a 19-year-old tournament is insane enough. But I think if you're any NHL team who thinks you have a shot at this guy, why would you win any more games this season is my question.
I don't know. I honestly think that Gary Bettman would rig it for the Coyotes and try to get him to them to try to save his piece of shit organization.
Hey, that piece of shit has 2 wins against the Maple Leafs. I was going to get to this a bit later on, but you fucking knew I was going to bring this up because Thursday we had this battle on this show. I said, just watch out for those pesky Yotes, that puck line. And not only do they hit the puck line, they get the overall win on the money line, a 6-3 win. So take that, Rosie. I was going to make you wear a skirt on today's show.
I kind of like that, maybe. It's weird. It's like some kind of bloody, like an anomaly or something like that with this goddamn Coyotes team. Like, you sent me something that was like the stats against them in the last however many years, and they're just atrocious for how bad of a team the Coyotes have been in a long time. And, you know, as of late, the Leafs have been really good regular season. So it's really weird that they keep dropping to that garbage team. But good for them. It's the NHL. You can lose to anybody any day, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I think it's an oddity. I think you're so right. And I love in my notes, I have first things first. I fucking told you Arizona 6, Toronto 3. So I made a note of it in my game plan today to bring it up because that was just hilarious. The fact that I called my shot, I won my money and won some money off that game. I loved it.
Well, I was trying to think of some way to say something about it, and there was just nothing to say. And I just wrote, you were right.
No, and that means the most to me, working with you for the last 3 months. So I appreciate that. Remember to subscribe, tap that like button, and leave us a review wherever you're checking us out. Don't forget to visit theleafsnation.com for the very latest on all things Toronto Maple Leafs. In about 45 minutes or so, I'll have my game preview coming up for the Leafs and Blues tonight from Scotiabank Arena. Thoughts, comments, questions, or concerns, drop us a line in the chat down here below on YouTube. We'll get to it a bit later on in the show as we get closer and closer to the trade deadline. But first, let's get over the boards, Rosie. The weekend recap. So a 3-game road trip concludes to finish off the year 2022. And what an impressive effort. Nathan MacKinnon comes back. We don't care, says the Toronto Maple Leafs. A 6-2 win. Michael Bunting, 2 goals. Matthews is 18th. Nylander, 2 apples. Probably as good as you can finish off 2022, in my opinion, Rosie.
Yeah, I would say so, man. I thought that they just manhandled the Cup champs, man. It was, you know, even the little bits of adversity where it could have gone evened out, they just slammed the door. Like, that's what I like about this team so much right now is last couple seasons they've seemed so fragile, and you know, they can get that win and they can get that lead and they still feel like they're gripping their sticks. They could have a 2-goal lead, and if it turns into a 1-goal lead in the third, oh god, you can just see it on them, just panic, like, don't blow this. And they just don't have that this year. I mean, it's very few times I've seen anything like that, and that was an example there against the Avs where they just freaking just didn't give him a chance, man. And yeah, a great way to close out the year for sure, and good way to bounce back from that rough game against the Phoenix.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I think the response is incredible because I don't think you want to get down that path of a couple games in a row where you're not looking the same, you're not feeling the same. And I think to shut the door the way they did against the defending Cup champs who get their star player back, I thought was really, really impressive. I thought from puck drop, they're ready to go. I mean, you played in this league. How many times do you play on New Year's Eve and you're like, you're looking forward to the post-game antics or festivities? And I think good on them. They were prepared. They're ready to go. They took care of business, and I'm sure they had a great time behind the scenes after the game, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, you would think so. It was it's just it's just that time of year where you got lots of shit going on. You just flew in or saw some family, or you got family in town or just leaving, and there's dicking around, and you got to jump on the road quick. And and then it's New Year's, and it's just an impressive win at a time where it'd be easy to be a little bit unfocused, and maybe Colorado was, but I mean, Georgiev or Georgikayev or whatever the hell is pronounced looked kind of garbage,
Georgiev.
and they got him yanked. But there was I was looking on Twitter after the game, like, Matt Murray, like, starting to show some shakiness, and the goaltending. I'm like, oh my God. I said a long time ago, I'm like, they're going to have a little blip on the radar through,
Yeah.
December, January, or at some point in time, they're going to have a skid, just like every single team in the world, every single goaltending duo in the world. And I guess that was it, because Murray came out and looked really solid. There was some big chances, and he just looked poised again. So, all good on the home front from that game. I was quite happy watching it, thinking about how they bounced back and closed the door on the 2022.
Hey, what's your read on Dryden Hunt through 2 games? He had a scrap in his first one against the Coyotes on Thursday.
Loving him.
Yeah,
Back at the end of
that's
that
your guy,
scrap, he was just like, what am I doing? But he was effective, man, and he was effective, and I noticed him out there, gets in a scrap, does what he has to do, banging around and just being effective, getting some ozone time, and I just thought it was solid. I also noticed Malgin looked like one of the best players on the friggin' ice there last game too. I was like, where the hell has this been? But all in all, a good addition. I just cannot say enough about a guy that doesn't always scrap, that does scrap. I mean, you could see at the end, he's like kind of down, like protecting his face, like, oh God. And it just doesn't look like it's the most comfortable thing in the world for him, but he shows up. And that's the most important thing. I imagine the boys were gaining a lot of respect for him after that shift.
And again, he brings a different dimension to the bottom six, but I think only time will tell how long he sticks in that bottom six for this Maple Leafs team. This game preview is brought to you by our new friends at Montana's. Montana's is bringing back the viewing party with daily deals in 2023. I love both of these. Half price wings on Monday, so you have to do that next week. But you can get set for all you can eat ribs coming up tomorrow on Wednesdays. Rosie, that's right up my alley, dude.
Jeez, it's 9 a.m. and I'm like salivating over those wings and ribs right now, but I don't have any in front of me.
We'll get you some. The Leafs have to be salivating for their matchup against St. Louis Blues. Second time in a week, this time in Toronto, of course, way back last Tuesday, a 5-4 OT win. Willie Nylander, the winner. And, of course, the big news on Monday, in my opinion, St. Louis announcing injuries to Ryan O'Reilly and Vladimir Tarasenko. And I think if there's a time to play the Blues, it's probably right now, Rosie.
Yeah, ouch. Those are two of their big dogs that are out. But, as we know from our season this year, that doesn't always mean that you're going to be garbage. Sometimes teams rally behind, being down, and other guys step up and do things out of the ordinary. So I certainly wouldn't take them lightly, but that's a big knock for the Blues. And, I was thinking about them a couple of years ago, like, it doesn't even seem right to me. Correct me if I'm wrong, but around Christmas time, they were dead last in the NHL.
Correct.
And then won the Stanley Cup. Like, that wasn't talked about enough, in my opinion. Like, that's impossible. How do you pass all of those teams in a handful of months and get that much better? I know injuries and this and coaching changes and shit like that, but that was insane, man. And I mean, that just really proves to you that anything can bloody well happen. And if you ever think your team's toast or whatever, look at the Blues from, what was that, 2019?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
You want to talk about
insane.
anomalies. Like, it really was insane. And as you know, I was covering the league at the time still. And just watching that, to hiring Craig Berube, to looking at the run Jordan Binnington went on, coming out of seemingly nowhere later on in his career, like everything seemed to trend in the direction of the St. Louis Blues. And now you flash forward to 2022/2023, and nothing's going their way. Like, they have a lot of depth. Binnington has been just pedestrian so far. I highlighted the numbers last week against the Leafs. They haven't improved whatsoever. I'm having a tough time trying to quantify this game, by the way. I believe the over-under is set at 6, and I think I'm probably leaning towards the under, but to be honest, I'm staying away because we know the last little while in the matchups, the Leafs and Blues, they always seem to hit the over. But I just talked about the injuries to O'Reilly and Tarasenko. I think the Blues are going to play a sheltered game and try to scrap out like a 2-1 game. That's just my feel.
Yeah, I could see that too. Obviously, they're going to be kind of in uncharted territory without, Tarasenko and O'Reilly. That's a big hole in their deal, and it'll be tough to step up and fill those shoes and fill the net. But yeah, I would imagine they're going to be heavy team defense, keep things to the perimeter, and try to win that way. And Binghamton's going to need to be good if he's playing. And I don't know if the Leafs bring their shit, man. The Blues are going to be in trouble. But again, one of those games where you think it's already won when you look at the lineup, and that's going to be no good. But again, I think the Leafs have matured and they kind of don't pay attention to that shit and they just bring their game. And the biggest thing is when I look at the score sheets after every game, it's always so spread out with the scoring. Like
Yeah.
this guy has a big game, that guy has a big game. It's not just like Austin Matthews is carrying the team on his back every goddamn game and beating teams single-handedly. And let's just hope that happens in the playoffs. That's not what's happening. It's a much more well-rounded scoring depth and depth in general throughout the lineup, which is really good to see because you certainly need that during the playoffs. And goaltending's been fixed. It just looks pretty good, and I'm excited going into the new year here. And hopefully they start off right tonight.
The projected starter for this game is Ilya Samsonov, who, by the way, is 9-0-0 at Scotiabank Arena so far this season. By the way, it sounds like Rasmus Sandin is good to go after missing 4 games with a neck injury. And as we expected, looks like Connor Timmins is going to be out. But having said that, I wouldn't be shocked at some point in time the Leafs go 11-7. I think these guys are all going to get the opportunity. And it's not like Timmins played himself out of the lineup. I think they're just trying to look at this decor and give it a look tonight.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's nice for once we have options on who we're playing rather than scrambling to shove
True.
anyone we can get on an airplane into the game. So, good problem to have, but long season left. There'll be more injuries. There'll be more ups and downs. I mean, mark my words now, this team will go through a little skid here before the playoffs and the sky will be falling again. But like, that's just what happens. They're going to be working things out, and it's a long grindy season, and it's hard to stay on top of your game when there's 20 some guys all trying to do it together. There's going to be little lulls and breaks in the chemistry and the flow of the team. So that's just what happens. But it's nice that guys are healing up and starting to come back into the lineup.
10-14 in January on home ice. The Leafs 13-2-3 at home. And I really want to see them make Scotiabank Arena a house of pain. I think they have so far this season, but I think they can really take advantage of the schedule this month, Rosie.
Yeah, nice January for them, obviously. And their record shows that it is beneficial for them to be in that barn. And I'd just like to see them like go on another bit of a run and not worry about what happened in the past and have that barn just fucking rocking. Like, have Toronto
Yeah.
believe that this is the real deal. Like, we literally have a shot at winning the Stanley Cup this year, and let's be excited about it. Let's enjoy this because we've got a really good team. Let that fucking roof blow off that barn. I know it hardly ever happens, but it is possible. I've heard it. And get behind this team and rally on this big home stretch here throughout the month and get jacked up and just run those last couple of months right into playoffs there after January and let's go on a run and do this fucking thing.
Maybe it starts with a Dryden Hunt fight, your new favorite player on the Toronto Maple Leafs. This game preview, this game preview is brought to you by our friends at Montana's. Montana's is bringing back the viewing party with daily deals in 2023, including daily drink deals and specials. Of course, that's right up our alley. Make sure to subscribe to the Nation Network YouTube page and also the Leafs Nation Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook accounts at TLNDC on Twitter, by the way. Lots of great prizes and giveaways are coming away later this month. And your courtesy our new friends at Montana's. We're locked and loaded now, Rosie. New Year's resolutions. I know you love this. You had a tough time answering my question last week about what you remembered most about 2022 for the Leafs. But what's your New Year's resolution Leafs related here?
Well, it's not to have a whole 2023 and it goes into next season and we're going to blend the two seasons, even though there's different players and it's not even the same fucking thing. It's so dumb. But for the rest of the season, I mean, let's be honest. The obvious one is to get, break through and get to the second round of the playoffs. That's pretty much the obvious New Year's resolution for this team. But to go beyond that, it is to continue this like defense first mentality where the forwards and everyone's taking care and they're not like, we haven't seen really gross turnovers,
this year like we have in the past. We haven't seen like negligent efforts on the back checks and things like that. We've really seen like a nice collapse down low, and you're protecting the house and keeping things away from your net and helping out defensively. And I mean, look at out through time, that's what wins championships, is big defense and good goaltending. So, you know, I want them to continue doing that, get better at it, and I want them to keep growing as a group, that this is the group to go forward. I don't know if they're going to be able to add a big piece or not. So I'm just trusting in this group and hoping that they get better every single game like they honestly have been so far this year. Keep on track.
Firstly, thanks for shitting on my producer work. I'm just trying to create content here for the program. Number two, I guess you forgot about the month of October, where every game there was about 7-8 giveaways a night. But we have that in the rearview mirror. Mine's pretty simple, dude. Lock down home ice in round one. So they're 5 points up on Tampa. The Bolts have 2 games in hand. I say let's try this again. We all know it's going to a game 7. I'll put money on it right now that it goes to a game 7 in round 1. I'd rather it be at Scotiabank Arena. That's why I always bring up House of Pain, House of Pain, House of Pain. I'd rather that game 7 be on home ice. So that's probably my number one New Year's resolution. I'm not going to be that guy that says win a round, because it hasn't happened since 2004. Let's lock down home ice in round 1 here.
Yeah, I like it, man. It's going to be some intense playoff watching this year. Like to go to game 7. I know you guys did it last year, but to follow it the way we have this year, and you've been doing it a little longer than me, that's for sure. But just specifically Leafs watching the playoffs this year, man, I feel what the Leafs fans have felt for a long time. It's going to be just like, come on. And to go into a game 7, like how do you even sleep before? I think it's more stressful being like a fan or a watcher, a hoper of the team than it is to be a player, because you just go and try to take care of business. But it's going to be intense. And yeah, locking up home ice is crucial. I mean, you get those, the biggest thing, not just the game 7, but the first 2 games at home, to get that, you know, that momentum and that lead and to take control of the series. That's so huge. And you have a bigger opportunity of doing that on home ice, obviously. So that is a big deal. And I hope they don't play Tampa just to have something different happen and not to have like any of that repeat kind of feel going on. But regardless, I just want this team to just be the professionals that they are and put themselves in the best position they can and then go take care of business. So yeah, I agree. Try to lock down that home ice.
Yeah, sadly, Boston doesn't lose games.
No.
Florida's far behind now. Like, it's pretty crazy. You know, the offseason the Panthers had, the big time trade. They're probably not going to make the playoffs, which is great news for the Montreal Canadiens, because they hold the first rounder, and it's not protected, by the way, of the Florida Panthers from the Sherratt trade. And I think you look at Tampa, I think we're staring down the pike of another first round showdown with the Tampa Bay Lightning. And I always like to say, to be the best, you got to beat the best. I said this last spring, and bring on the Tampa Bay Lightning. And that would be an incredible series. And I think the Leafs actually play them really, really well.
Yeah, it would be good. Just they're not doing as well, but I could see that them being a team that fires it up right at the last minute and finds their stride, you know, in April. And they're just so well coached, I believe, that anything's possible. So again, like you say, you got to beat the best. You want to be the best, so you got to get it done and go into the playoffs with everything well rounded. I've been saying since October, this whole season is about putting building blocks together, getting a little bit better, learning lessons, and getting to the point where, you know, come April, you are a well-oiled machine and you are ready to fucking rock. And that's what they've been doing. They're heading that way so far, and they've gone through adversity. They've had a tough start. They've had injuries out the ass, and they've come out really strong because of all that. And hopefully that just continues. But yeah, I mean, we're getting ahead of ourselves looking at the playoffs too hard, but it's hard not to, man. And it's weird. You say Florida, like, look how fast it can leave you, right? Like last year around this time, they were like Stanley Cup contenders, favorites even. And it's like, and then they just get swept and then don't make the playoffs potentially. Like, wow, it can happen fast. So that's kind of why I'm like, savor it while it's good, boys. Like, this is good. We're flying high. Stop naysaying. Just be happy with what we have and believe and trust in the team and moving forward, and quit living in the past, Nick.
I was laughing. I have a buddy on the Panthers who got recalled a couple weeks ago. Has been playing some games, and he messaged me to ask me what my question on Twitter was about, because I asked, "Are the Panthers making the playoffs?" I said, "I don't know, man. I'm just asking the questions. I understand players read social media, but like, to me, that's one of the bigger shocking stories of 2022. I know you like to look back at that year, but the Panthers going all in on a Matthew Tkachuk trade, and I think he's been outstanding. But I think obviously there's a lot of holes on that roster, and to be this far out, I think with half a season remaining is surprising for me. I thought at the very least they'd be involved in the conversation, but I think it just shows you in general, Rosie, how good Boston, Tampa, and Toronto have been. Like they literally win every night. It's crazy.
It's true, man. It's almost like, you feel like it's like the Jays playing, in their division where, for
Yeah.
years you're going up against the Yankees and the Bo Sox and you just don't really have a chance no matter what team you put together. And it's kind of like that in this division. Like there's teams that just aren't losing, like even the Leafs who are, not really contending to win the division right now. They hardly ever lose. They don't really lose back to backs, and
It's crazy. Yeah.
they can beat anybody, and it's just still so hard to gain ground. And that Boston story is quite interesting. I don't think they were on a lot of people's radar going into the season, and then they get that coaching change, and holy shit, they have certainly found something. And fingers crossed they cool off a little bit. It's a hard pace to keep up to, but they've been doing it for a long time and don't seem to be letting up. So whatever, it is what it is. Like you say, you get in the playoffs, you want to be the best, you got to beat the best, get in the playoffs, and then it's brand new season, boys.
Really is remarkable. We've talked a lot about Toronto's goaltending. Linus Ullmark is like 21-1-1. Like those numbers are ridiculous. And I think obviously the front runner right now for the Vezina Trophy, lots of racetrack remaining in this season. I know Montana's is throwing those viewing parties again. I think we might have to have a viewing party if Toronto and Tampa play each other and stream it live on YouTube because we're going to lose our shit, aren't we?
Yeah, and we'll like film us going to the liquor store and getting our beers like the barn burner guys.
Yeah.
I'm a
I
big
knocked my mic
advocate
out
for
of the
that.
way. Yeah,
We don't need to be doing this for 15 years to do that. Screw those guys. Let's do it now. I'm on board.
Yeah, let's get it greased up. I think we're going to put the wheels in motion for that plan and come playoff time. But for now, the wrap-up is brought to you by our friends at PointsBet Canada. All right, so it was a really, really successful conclusion to 2022. Hit the Coyotes puck line on Thursday, hit the over on Tuesday between the Leafs and Blues. I'm staying away from that total. I'm going to go to a shot prop tonight. Michael Bunting over 2.5 shots on goal, had 2 goals against the Colorado Avalanche on Saturday, plus 125. Around there is the value you're looking at on this shot prop. He's cleared in 4 of 5. He's playing with Matthews and Nylander. And again, he had 2 tucks against Colorado. Bunting's been playing excellent lately, Rosie.
Yeah, he has. He's been very noticeable, and he seems like he's got some swagger to him. He's confident. He's happy. He's kind of high on his horse right now, and as he should be. He's playing solid, and to be what was the shot prop, over 3?
Over 2.5, yeah.
Oh, sweet. Get 3. Yeah. For that kind of plus money, ride a hot horse when he's hot. So I'd take that bet too.
And we talked about depth earlier on to wrap. Like Bunting's been an incredible story. Kelly Yarncroke, dude, and maybe it's a short-term burst here, but like a 5-game point streak coming back from that groin injury, I think has really supplied the depth they're after. I think long-term, you're still ideally looking for a top 6 winger, but Kelly Yarncroke, I wanted to bring his name up as well.
Yeah, for sure. He was hot as hell there coming out, and that's what you need. Like, you get that depth scoring. Engvall gets one there, and expect Kerfoot to kind of step up and find stride here soon. And David Kampf, I mean, he's been solid, but again, he could step up and really provide some depth scoring from that fourth line. And that's what you need, man. Because last year we ran into those problems in the playoffs where if they shut down Matthews and Marner, and Nylander doesn't take off, like you're done. You can't win. And then you need that goal, and it's just spinning your wheels, and you can hardly gain the zone with possession, and you're just pulling your fucking hair out as the clock ticks down. It's like, it's difficult to watch. And this year, I don't think it seems like they have to lean on those guys as much. Like, I hate to say it, but like, looking at the numbers, maybe not, but like Matthews hasn't really been Austin Matthews this year, and he hasn't had to be. He's put up great points. He's very consistent, but I mean, he hasn't just exploded on pace for 60 and been carrying the team on his back. It's just, and he hasn't had to, and it's great. It's a good thing. I don't think teams win the cup by riding the coattails of 1 or 2 guys, and these guys seem like they're really well-rounded, and all the guys you just mentioned are providing that depth scoring, and that's just huge in my mind.
Very well said. Brad writes in, how about Nugent Hopkins outscoring AM34, Marner or Tavares or Bunting or Nylander? Clearly, Brad's a big-time Oilers fan, says Happy New Year. We get it. Edmonton's been a great story. Nugent Hopkins has been out of this world. So is Zach Hyman. I think in the grand scheme of things, we'll see long-term how it works out for both organizations, but a good, astute point there. If you have your New Year's resolutions, now's the time here. Tim York, I'm looking at you for your Leafs-related New Year's resolution. Obviously, 2023 is going to be an exciting year for the Leafs, but again, we want something different from this team come playoff time. But it's hard not to get excited. And man, I was watching the game on Saturday. Pontus Holmberg, dude, has come out of nowhere. And every game he impresses me, more so with his defensive play, but he's got sneaky upside offensively too. I don't know where they found this guy, but he's been a great story this season, hasn't he?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I didn't really know much about him before that preseason when we're checking guys out and seeing who's who and okay, who's this guy? And yeah, you never know. Like beginning of the year, you're looking at who could pretend. There's a lot of different guys that could tend for those depth spots, and he's stepped up in a big way. And again, I just love that because it takes the pressure off the big boys and you can roll lines confidently and you can rest your big boys a little bit. And then come that overtime, they can just explode because they haven't played 20 minutes. And it's just a really nice thing when you can get all that stuff rolling. And it's so much nicer for the coaching staff and just as an overall vibe for the team. You just literally feel like you're all walking in there as a 20-man crew that's just like, take your pick, man. We all can get it done. And it's a really nice feeling and it's really hard to do. And not all teams have it. And it seems like they're getting it right now, which is just awesome.
Speaking of explosion, we talked about it off the top. Connor Bedard is ripping up the World Junior right now. Who's the best talent or player that you ever played with throughout your career, whether it be the minors or obviously in the NHL? Who had the most talent in your opinion?
It would have to be up there with Claude Giroux, probably. I mean,
Stud.
he would do things that's just like, what the fuck was that, G? And he would do it in practice and we're just looking at each other in the lineup like, are you kidding me? And then he'd just go do it in a game too, which is even more impressive. But this Bedard guy, like, oh, it's hard because like he's obviously so disgusting and you're not asking if is he going to be a good player. I think he's going to be a phenom, but you're talking about what is he compared to Connor McDavid? And like Connor McDavid seems to get it done with just speed out the ass, like just blows the doors off everyone and then has obviously everything else to finish. And Connor's more dangle, dipsy doodle. And it's like, geez, can you do that in the NHL? But every step of the way he's gone, he's able to do it. If he can continue to score in that way in the NHL, he's just going to be an absolute human highlight reel. I mean, think about the high pressure situation they were in last night in overtime and he scores a goal like that. Like who does that?
Saw some crazy comps, by the way, and it's a really good comp. Like he's got Mitch Marner's skating abilities and Austin Matthews' shot. Like that's pretty accurate, no?
Yeah, and then who like Patty Kane's dangles or what? Like he's real good, and yeah, he has that dragon shoot. I was watching him on Instagram. Like he's got a tire like right fucking beside him. And he still drags it 5 feet and lasers one off of there where that tire would have to be like 3 feet to the other side for me to even get a shot off. Like, I don't know where these guys get it, but he seems to put in the work. He seems to have the drive. He's not just relying on his talent and letting the chips fall where they may. He's like the last guy out there on the ice. He works his nuts off ice. And it's like, oh my God, this guy is going to be a generational talent. I think he's going to be chasing Connor McDavid's numbers, which is just insane to think that you're going to get another guy like that potentially in the league, this quickly. Usually that's like a generational thing.
Looking forward to seeing the semifinals at the World Junior tomorrow. Canada and the U.S. is a classic every time those two teams get together. They're unable to play a boring hockey game, so look out for the best in that one. Looking forward to the Leafs and the Blues tonight, Rosie. Excellent job today, and welcome to 2023. Happy New Year.
Right on. Same to you. Let's go get it this year.
Let's do it. The Leafs and Blues tonight. We'll have the full recap coming up tomorrow. Take care.